Welcome to the Heartland Journals podcast with your host, Steve Abramowitz, editor-in-chief of heartlandjournal.com.
Howdy, y'all. Welcome back to the show. I'm Steve Abramowitz, and this is the Heartland Journal podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and pass it around. We only grow with your help. Thanks for doing it. On this show, we are focusing on our nation today with always an interesting person making a positive change in our community, where I interview people who are making an impact and are lovers of truth. Today, we're talking with special guest, Beard Veteran Coffee CEO and co-founder, Sean George. Sean cares about the most veterans and the issues that many of them face today. He runs one of the largest coffee companies in the United States, but there's more than just coffee. Sean is very passionate about helping veterans that need assistance. For every bag of coffee sold, Beard Vet Coffee donates a portion to help veterans with housing, food, and other needs. Marine Vet with Charlie Battery, thank you for your service. 1st Battalion Regiment, 2nd Marine Division, Top Gun Commendation Award, looks a lot like Tom Cruise actually, deployed in the Mediterranean and North Africa, Operation Infinite Reach in support of Kenya and Tanzania bombing 1999. Thank you for your service, sir. Sean, how are you today?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, actually. I really appreciate it. You are in Nebraska. It's the middle of winter, so I'm glad we can talk by the power of Zoom, and I don't have to drive over there and deal with all that, although I think it's pretty mild this year, isn't it?
It has been. We're in a very warm spell right now, so it's been kind of nice the last maybe 6-7 days. So, but it's going to get colder here in like 2 days. So.
Enjoy it while it lasts. I've been told that I'm in the middle of fake winter or fake spring in Tennessee, and the real winter is just around the corner. But I'll take it. It's nice today, too. Well, again, thank you for your service. I wouldn't have this microphone to speak freely without guys just like you. So truly, thank you. First question. You yourself are a vet. How did you get the idea of using coffee in a world of Starbucks and Dunkin' to help vets?
You bet. Well, I've had some family relation that started a coffee company here in Omaha, Nebraska back in the early 70s. And it came to us. I had already started the company, Beard Vet, by doing beard oil. We were selling beard oil, beard bombs, men's grooming products, brushes, scissors, things like that. And then I got a crazy phone call from an executive at one of the distribution companies, a larger distribution company. And he was like, "Hey, listen, do you know anything about coffee?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, man. I know people." So anyways, fast forward, we ended up branding our own coffee as well. And it just took off. And now we're in the process. I sold half the company 2 years ago, and we're in the process of moving some things. So we're kind of in a transitional phase, but it's growth of moving things from Omaha, Nebraska down to Plano, Texas.
Okay.
So that was kind of I wasn't like, I was obviously a heavy coffee drinker. I drink 1 to 2 pots a day usually. So learning the coffee business was a little bit of a process. However, I have that entrepreneurial spirit, and that's what and I had a lot of connections and help that got me there along the way. And it's been a blessing.
Awesome. Well, you'll like this. In October, Starbucks reported global comparable store sales declined 7%, driven by an 8% decline in comparable transactions. Do you think it's because they allowed junkies to shoot up in their bathrooms, or because the quality of their beans are no good, or something else like going woke?
Well, I initially probably chalk that up to a company that's gone woke. But you could combine all those things to it. They brought back the old CEO who started, I think, or one of the original people of Starbucks. They brought him back to kind of try to rescue this thing and change the image.
Howard Schultz.
That they were just,
they ran him out of there on a rail.
Right.
He wrote a book, ran for president as a Democrat, and they still didn't like him.
Right.
Even after all the healthcare benefits he had thrown at them for the first 25, 30 years of the company's expansion.
Yeah. And it's it's a shame that, I'm not a big fan of their coffee. A lot of people tell me that it's burnt coffee. However, to each of their own. I know there's a convenience to it, because they have shops everywhere. But if you want a more superior market, the smaller niche guys are probably a closer. I think you're gonna enjoy a better coffee flavor, and especially if you're a coffee enthusiast, you're definitely not buying from Starbucks or any really big chain place. It's hard to keep the integrity of coffee when you go that big. There's only certain types of roasting machines out there that can produce real, reliable, all around coffee. And that's just the facts of it. The bigger companies, the Folgers, it's cheaper coffee because they're mass producing it and just rushing it through. Whereas, a place like us, we do, air convection roasting, where it's state of the art stuff. It's a lot like the old, air popcorn machines, is what I would refer that to. But the new technology that is out, we were one of the first to ever receive one of those machines from overseas. We bought it from a Czech Republic company over in Prague. So they were pretty well advanced in their technology, and that's what we have. So puts out a superior product. It's just everything is cooked to perfection, roasted to perfection, and with what you're trying to make, it's that's the art of coffee. It takes somebody to kind of know what the heck they're doing when they're doing that stuff, and just not any old
and to be realistic, I mean, they still did an unbelievable $36 billion in 2024. Dunkin' did 13 billion, so people are drinking their stuff. And the Bucks is 3 times bigger than Dunkin'. But neither are dedicated their profits to vets. You specifically do that. Tell us how beer does it and competes with these giants. And in the 4 years of Biden, I remember very clearly Gibson Guitar was pretty much bankrupted because they wouldn't let them come after they wouldn't let them get their wood to make these amazing antique guitars because they were a conservative company. That was a little bit of political payback for the Obama years. Did anything like that happen to you guys in your doing your day-to-day business, making people happy, drinking coffee?
Well, to go back to like helping veterans, yes, every month, we typically select a veteran charity and we give them a little bump. The main thing that I've done over the years is I did the investigating, looking into these veteran charities to determine whether or not they were doing good things with your hard-earned money that you elect to donate to them. So it wasn't just me picking wounded warriors out of the group where, only about 15% goes back to the actual veteran. Whereas I look for companies that are 50% or better. So so if I donate $100, it's not going to admin and parties and things like that. Now, however, since I've known or gotten to know veteran charities a little bit more over the years, they do come at a cost if they want to grow. So I've selected several charities that I like giving to, that I have a very good relationship with, and I've continued those relationships for the past 8 years, and they do very well and very good with your dollars. Some of them are like Coda Vets, Heartland, A Heart of a Lion. I've done some stuff with Tunnels for Towers, which is obviously a very large one. The Sentinel Foundation.
Do you find them or do they find you?
Oh, I've found them. I found them. All these folks I've either met through social media, gotten to know them before I sent even a penny to them. There's even some that I've done where they take veterans fishing, for TBI and PTSD, to get them out of their environment and let them enjoy a little time out fishing, relaxful, peaceful things. Mighty Oaks Warriors, they're really good. I've done some stuff with the Brain Injury Alliance as well. And being a disabled veteran myself, I have, it's something that I'm passionate about. So it makes it easier for someone like me, for someone who's not a veteran, not disabled, or, doesn't really experience those things. It's important for them to know that, hey, some of these veteran charities out there aren't doing very wise things with your money. And I'm not saying Wounded Warriors Project doesn't do very good things, because they do. They've done wonderful, amazing things for folks. They're so big that they have a large admin cost. And
Their
Tunnels for
overhead is
Towers,
too high to have the money
yeah,
actually help. Yeah.
right. And Tunnels for Towers is kind of getting that way as well. But if you go, you meet these people, and then you see the people that they've done all the good for. It's again, being an empty nester myself, no kids in the house. This is my my career path is like something after my original career path that I've started. So this is like my going away present, if you want to call it that. But
Very cool.
time will tell. But anyways, that's kind of how we got into this business. Me and the missus, we looked at one another, and we just kind of said, hey, what do you want to do? And that's when I got way more active into politics as well. About 8 years ago, I had a little extra free time on my hands, and I wanted to do something with that time. Politics was one of those things, coffee and veterans awareness, so those are all things that they all mix well together as well. Like being passionate about politics, I think it should be everyone's civic duty to pay attention to what is going on in your local, federal level, local, state, and federal levels. I think they're all important. Me, myself, I'm very conservative, but to each his own. I don't hate on other folks. However, there's some that probably deserve some punishment, for doing the things that they've done. But either way,
you're one of the few of us that figured out a way to monetize the beard, right? I mean, you made a company basically, and your wife probably said, "Well, you got this darn beard. Let's make some money off of it." And so, how about coffee? Okay, at least you don't spill it. I found this interesting about you. 3 from VFAF, Veterans for the Trump, appointed to Trump campaign veterans and military families for Trump. VFAF member Sean George, founder of Beard Vet Coffee, U.S. Marine Corps. VFAF Nebraska State Chapter President Mark LaJoy, Muskogee County Sheriff, Intelligence and Special Operations, U.S. Army GA VFAF Ambassador, and Rob Manass, Colonel, U.S. Air Force MSVFAF Mississippi State Chapter President, have all been appointed to the coalition, Trump said on Truth Social, invited as part of the grassroots campaign to Mar-a-Lago in November 2022 for Donald Trump's announcement of his run for 47th president. How was that? And did you meet him?
Yeah. It was that was the first of a couple. I've actually been there now. I've been to Mar-a-Lago 3 times, but that was the first time that I got to go. And he is very humble, very funny guy. I got to talk with him first. Listen, for me, it felt like an eternity because he even talked to me. But in reality, it was about a whopping 4 minutes tops. The one thing that I got him talking was that my interest in golf. I love to golf. I'm not that good. But I love the sport of it, and I love the competition of it. And excuse me. And so I brought up the fact that that later on that week I was actually planning a trip to go and play golf with John Daly, who I happen to know. I'm pretty close with friends with him. I don't know if you know who he is, but
oh yeah, I know he is. I know how he dresses too.
Yeah.
Please invite him on my show. I would love to chat with him about golf.
Yeah. John's quite the character. He's a heck of a good time and a fun guy to be around, and he can sure play some golf. And but that was kind of the startup of our split second conversation. And Yeah. One of the other times when I ran into him and I met him and got to talk with him, and the wife was with me, uh, we talked golf, and then President Trump literally looked at Amy and said, he must be a pretty good golfer. And the missus threw me under the bus as fast as possible. With a split second answer, she goes, he could use some more practice.
That's a good way to get out there on the golf course with him. That would be nice.
We made him laugh pretty good, and we did get to play at Trump Doral a couple times. So I've played there twice now, and then we're planning on playing at Trump Jupiter later this year. So pretty excited about that. To me, he's an honest man. He's very funny. He's got a great sense of humor, and I believe what he says. I believe what he says. And to be honest, there's not really much of a record that says that he doesn't do what he says. So,
no. Especially what he's done the last, was it 9 days now? He's really been on fire.
10 days.
Most presidents take 8 years, if that. In your assessment, how much damage did Biden's 4 years do to our military since the Afghanistan withdrawal?
It's insurmountable. There's several different things. Bringing in the wokeness, the DEI part of it is obviously a major concern, especially to our officers, the leadership part of it. Maybe not so much in the ranks of the enlisted or the recruitment part. The recruitment part had been down for quite some time. It had been because of kids at a high school, and I call them kids, but young men, at a high school, they see that Afghanistan withdrawal and they're like, what is going on with this? Like, I wouldn't want to join that and be left, left by your government, and Gates, the Abbey Gate explosion where it killed 13 of our, most precious heroes. And, and then the COVID, giving them a choice on an experimental vaccine, not giving them the choice on an experimental vaccine where people were able to do their own research and come to the conclusion that they didn't want to take it and were let go. Some of them let go without no retirement, demotions because they fought it through the ranks. They went up the chain of command and did, some were court-martialed for UCMJ. I mean, it was a terrible, terrible thing. And especially at the high-level officers in the ranks that left, I believe those folks that left were, true constitutionalists. When you take that oath, you're defending the Constitution of the country. You're to protect and to serve, and I think a lot of those guys that were doing that, or that were on that side, were the right guys, were the ones who got out. They saw what was happening. They saw what Biden was basically doing to the military, and him, Blinken, and the whole list of the crew that just totally, you saw men and women's dresses. When I was in the service, my gosh, if that would have happened, and maybe it did happen, I just didn't see it. And I was in when the Don't Ask, Don't Tell
only on TV with the Klinger character from MASH in the Korean War, right? I mean, that was a comedy, not reality.
Right. And that was a guy that was wanting to get kicked out. Like they wanted him to get kicked out, and they kept him there.
Yeah, Section 8 crazy or something. Yeah. Well, you were Top Gun. Top Gun was one of the greatest recruiting tools for the U.S. military ever in the 80s. And then we had this, like you said, Abbey Gate on TV, not Abu Ghraib, although that probably was dissuasive too, and that came out during the Iraq War. But yeah, the military has had several black guys, Mark Milley being, not exactly an honorable man. I don't blame him. Bo Bergdahl, the exchange for terrorists, of course, all the Guantanamo folks. I mean, it's been a disaster. And have you met Pete Hegseth? Do you think he's the man to fix this? And can he do it as fast as Trump is behaving, kind of this lightning speed, this Operation Warp Speed, so to speak? Because I ask this because we've got more veterans from more foreign wars than ever in the history of the world, of our country, and they all are looking to the government to help them in their time of need. And I think back to like Hoover having to open fire on the ones who had to pitch tents outside of the Capitol in DC. I don't want to see that again. What do you think Trump and Hegseth can do quickly to right those wrongs?
Well, you're seeing the dismantling of the DEI program already. It probably will get hung up in courts out in the public, but to the military, that's effective immediately. So that part of it, I think they're going to remedy relatively quickly. It seems to be a fast transition. However, they're going to have some trouble with probably recruitment. There's going to be some struggles getting back to retention, keeping people in the military. That was always a big thing when I was in too. When I was in, keeping the good guys was a hard thing. I saw many, even including myself. I thought for sure I wanted to stay in for a career, but I saw some of the best Marines that knew their stuff inside and out, but there just wasn't quite the incentive for the military, for those guys to stay in, especially as junior enlisted guys or NCOs, is what we non-commissioned officers. They didn't quite get like the bonuses and stuff. So I think President Trump, if he brings bonuses back to keep good retention of guys who want to be in the military, right? There's being in the military, and then there's wanting to be in the military. And
bringing back those vaccine hesitant folks with back pay and
yes,
getting their rank back. That's a good start. That'll make some people very happy. Yeah.
Yeah, it did. And there was I signed the letter for that. Wanting them to do that back in, gosh dogs, I want to say that was somewhere back in August or September of last year. I signed a letter and sent it in, and I support that 100%. Those guys, I think, were let go for the wrong reasons, and the chain of command, because Biden authorized made it hard for them to stay or go. That was their choice, stay or go. So I think President Trump and Pete Hegseth, and no, I've never met Pete. I run in some of the same circles as him with some charity stuff, but never met him. I sure would like to meet him. But I've also signed letters of endorsement for him. And I was one of the 1,100, I think, that President Trump had us sign or asked us to sign. And for a full endorsement of him, Tulsi Gabbard, John Ratcliffe, and
RFK?
No,
or Cash Patel? Cash Patel?
Cash Patel.
Yeah.
But there was one other person that I signed another letter for endorsement. No, it was more. It might have been Secretary of Defense, no, it was. Gosh, dogs, I'm trying to think of it here.
Transportation?
No.
Okay.
Well,
if you think about it,
I'll think about it.
Let's talk about home. Let's talk about your home, because I love Nebraska. Everyone does, and not many people have ever been there. But you're a Nebraska Republican delegate for Trump. So tell us about Nebraska, one of the few red states left. They went 59% for Trump. Why not 100%? Are they slipping? Are they slipping in their conservatism?
Well, we have two larger cities here in Nebraska. So Omaha and Lincoln. Lincoln is the capital. Omaha is the largest city. There's probably close to 1 million people, with the surroundings maybe a little bit more with all the suburbs around it. But Omaha's fairly blue, in the deep part of town. And for some reason, they can still pull votes there, which is crazy to me, even though the city of Omaha does have a Republican mayor. But there's not many Democrats in our state legislature, with the exception of Omaha and pockets of Lincoln. Lincoln does have a very crazy mayor right now, and she's full blown woke and DEI and everything. So she's going to be she she's got her number coming. She's got her number called here. I think we've got some good candidates coming up that are going to potentially take her position. But
It
for the
sounds
most
it
part,
sounds just like Tennessee. We got a whole red state, but we have two little islands of blue. For you, it's Lancaster and Douglas. For me, it's
yeah,
Shelby and Davidson, where Nashville is and where Memphis is. So I want to know what's the matter with those people actually voting for Kamala. And it was only, in reality, sort of like we were talking about Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts, it was only 35,000 votes. So out of 950,000, that's like 3 to 4% that have this mental illness. What's up with these people? Why don't
right.
they move to Boston? Why do they live in Nebraska for?
Right, exactly, and I think over time we're working on several. Our Nebraska GOP here is very strong and very grassroots. A few years back, there was kind of I would call it, I would like to call it grassroots, but it's actually more like national populist. Kind of took over the party, took over the Nebraska party, took it away from the Rhino Republican Party. So we dealt with a lot of that the last 4 years and further. But 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the party changed, changed at the leadership level, and plus the party was 100% for Trump. The problem was, is like our federal delegation was, all of them are full blown, pretty much rhinos. We got caught in a trap, like a lot of states have, where they say they're Republican. For instance, South Carolina. I consider Nebraska like a smaller version of South Carolina. South Carolina's federal delegation full of rhinos, with maybe the exception of Tim Scott, but but they have Lindsey Graham, who has repeatedly just like fought tooth and nail against President Trump's agenda.
They have
You
Nancy
know,
Mace too, who all of a sudden became MAGA, but she's got like a D or an F Liberty score. So South Carolina is weird, especially since they're so military heavy.
is she from there?
Yeah.
What's the other one? What's the girl? Nikki Haley. She's from there too.
She was the former governor of South
Yeah,
Dakota. No,
or
South Carolina. South Carolina. Yeah, of course. Yes. It was
so
Nome. It was Nome who was South, which may be
yeah,
the other person you wrote the letter for.
it was.
Yeah.
Now that you say that, that's exactly who it was.
Christy Nome. Yeah.
But yep, and but anyways, Nebraska politics is very strange at times. However, even my county that I'm in, I have a great county GOP chairman. He's easy to work with, wonderful. He's very MAGA. He's pro Trump. However, we have to reach across to the people who aren't like full blown MAGA, right? Or even just they're Republicans, but they're Mitch McConnell Republicans, or similar to like our federal delegation of Pete Ricketts, uh, uh, Don Bacon. He's horrible.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
He's one of the worst congressmen out there, and plus he's been there for years. He's been there years. I think he's on his fourth or fifth term. So and Ricketts has been our governor. We have Deb Fisher. She's had her moments, but all of them, they voted for all these omnibus bills. They voted down some key legislation when President Trump was in office on his first term. So, I mean, they've done a really crappy job for us, to be honest with you. But I love working with our groups here now. The Nebraska GOP, we had a very strong Trump campaign here. I was a Trump caucus captain for my county. I participated in pretty much everything that they did, or I tried to. But
let me ask you this one.
yeah,
So also like Tennessee, conservative red state, supermajority Republicans, you have school choice on the docket. We just passed it yesterday, became the 13th state to accept it. Like it or not, in the details, it now exists. And here's a quote from Nebraska. We can't wait for change. The school system has to change. It has to be modernized, and it has to work for everybody and not just some. And it hasn't been working for everybody. State Senator Terrell McKinney of North Omaha. He's a Democrat, 35-year-old kid, African American, who went to a magnet school. In 2020, he won his primary by 4 votes. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, not a typo, not 44. Is he the most hated man in the state, at least in Democrat circles, being for school choice? And what do Cornhuskers want from school choice?
Well, he's hated, but we have a super majority in the legislature. So as Republicans have a super majority, I think we're sitting at 33 or 34. Can't exactly remember what the number is, but in all reality, he shouldn't even have a voice because we can knock him down plain as day without ever having to call a special session. And currently right now, our legislation is in session. And I don't know if you're familiar with Nebraska, but we're the only state in the union that has what's called a unicameral. We have all state senators that go there. We don't have a House and a Senate. It's all combined. So it's called the unicameral. And when they're in session, all these bills get put forth. So school choice, obviously a very big school, President Trump has said our education has gone down the toilets. And I think actually today, the press secretary had mentioned how bad the results were that they got back, or some of the information that they've got back from the Department of Education. So it hasn't been working for us here in Nebraska. Like I said, it's a concern for some communities here. However, my focus is on we have a problem in our state. We also are one of the few states in the union that have where we divide up our electoral votes. And so, like, for instance, Omaha gave 1 electoral vote to Kamala Harris.
It's not a winner-take-all state, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a winner-take-all state. So getting it into session should be a top priority. I suppose it is. Our leader down there says he wants it in, however, and our governor says he'll sign it, but it's still a fight with people. For whatever reason, it's still a fight in my own party. The party that lost the 1 electoral vote, that has a super majority, they could change this in 10 seconds. I mean, they could literally put it on the floor, vote, and be done with it. And then it becomes a Republican electoral vote, a very important one, all things considered. If there is a tight race with a very good Democratic contender, and they have money, way more money than the Republican Party probably does, that 1 electoral vote could mean the difference, because it's a 2-point swing. It either goes one way or the other, which leaves a 2-point gap there, which could be the difference between 272 and, So
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's a fascinating little deal. There's a whole big thing about Nebraska being the it wouldn't get the squeaky wheel grease if it wasn't the way that you guys set it up, because it's a small state and one of the smallest. I think Wyoming might be smaller, but if you weren't,
well, there's a few that are smaller than us. We have 5 electoral votes, but we're not. Yes, we're the bottom 10% or
not
20%.
California or Texas, that's for sure.
Right. Yeah, but Vermont is set up. New Hampshire is set up very similar to Nebraska. I think they have 3 electoral votes, and they do have a system where they split electoral votes. And I think that may be the only other state in the union that has that. So either way, it's one of those fights and battles that our GOP needs help with. Charlie Kirk's been here and I've talked with the governor's people and obviously my GOP chairman. We're trying to make. I'll just say this. So when that takeover happened 3 years ago, the large contingency of those populist nationalists that uh, you know that are working for Nebraska and the GOP now that have taken those leadership roles, they they're trying to find ways to reach across and make amends because there was a lot of hurt feelings with some Republicans when that happened. So they're now focusing on building that relation back together and trying to get things done, so to say.
That's good
So like
because there will be life after Trump. Everyone has to get over the man
right.
and start looking at the policies. And I know that you don't have a ton of time, so I want to bang out a few more quick questions and then I'll
Yeah.
let you go because I know you're busy. VFAF Veterans for Trump produced a Trump-related documentary that was supposed to be released in fall of 2024 featuring General Flynn. Um, did that come out and how was it received and how can people see that?
Um so I'm not for sure if it's officially out yet. They just got a bunch of DVDs. However, I don't think they've released the film on like YouTube yet or other social media venues yet. It should be coming very soon. But yeah, it's another great piece that Scott Ferguson kind of worked his magic and kind of put all these people together. General Flynn, I had General Flynn here in Nebraska. We had an excellent time. I took him to our facility where my wife runs, and he got to ride some horses when he was here. We got to shoot some guns, and it was a lot of fun. I was very blessed to hang out and with his whole crew. We had a whole bunch of people that he runs around with when he was doing his I can't remember what he was calling that tour. It wasn't the Reawaken tour, but it was, General Flynn was out promoting his movie, which was
Yeah,
very good.
him and
And
Ivan Raiklin were out there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So anyways, we had a great time. It was fun to talk and chat about things, and hopefully, there's some position maybe that President Trump can put him as a chief of staff of some sort, or get him in the White House. I think
Yeah.
that's what he wants to do. But however,
Clean out that
however,
intelligence community. That's for darn sure. He knows where the bodies are buried. I wouldn't have known about you, and I don't know if as many people who do know about you would have known about you if it wasn't for Twitter. You've got about 175,000 followers since 2017, which is pre-Elon. That's Twitter 1.0 with Jack Dorsey. Did you see a change from Twitter in your influence, being an influencer, being somebody who people would listen to get to a Mar-a-Lago type of thing, under Elon taking over? And what do you think Truth and Twitter's influence in the election was?
well, this go around, Twitter was massive in the election, and yeah, getting that following on social media, it I I'll just say this. I was very, very lucky and very blessed that I knew some people outside of social media that were on social media, and one of those guys is Jack Posobiec. So Jack, I knew him outside of social media. So when I got on there, he put me in a group. Back then, we had DM groups. There's those today too, but direct message groups where I was in with some other high level influencers. Now, back then in 2017, 2016, they were not very big. And some of these people now have millions of followers, very big social media accounts. I'm probably the low guy on the totem pole. But I was very blessed, and I can't thank those guys all enough that's in that group, still in the group. Uh,
Right,
sorry,
you're talking about regular guys like Patriots like Cat Turd, Gunther, Mike
yeah,
Engelman has just been on here. He was just on the show this week. Normal people with common sense, or
yeah.
what Dan Bongino says, we are the media now. What do you think happened to corporate America and by extension mainstream media that put them so out of touch with everyday Americans, making them turn to us normies?
Well, it was because they were canceling people over your opinion, so they weren't allowing your free speech, the way how you saw it or I saw it, why we were seeing things with COVID, with the government, with how your local, state, and local officials were handling things. They were censoring all of that. They were censoring us. I was censored. I was cut off on New Year's Day in 2020 or 2021. Uh, so everybody felt that pressure. Now, Elon did. I think he's got very good. I mean, he helped President Trump win this election this last time. There's no doubt about that. Saving Twitter, making Twitter a place where you can have your free speech. As of right now, it seems to be that way. I'm still on the fence, so to say, with his overall, what his goal, his mastermind plan is, especially with him owning a company like Neuralink, and doing business with the government, with his other businesses, both in electrical vehicles, and in
China.
the space.
Yeah.
China.
Yeah.
And so I have reservations there. However, what he did for social media so far, as I can see, he's done an amazing job. I have free speech on there. I'm very comfortable with speaking to everybody on social media. I try to follow back everybody that I can. And unfortunately, I'm not on like a regular guy, like you were talking, Gunther and Catcherd and those guys. They have that phone in hand and they're just going left and right, just nonstop. Where I'm a guy where I have a lot of other things going on and I don't have quite the ability like they do to just sit on that thing and go to town.
Exactly.
But it is a fun place, and I met so many great people, you included, and
you.
Corky and everybody, all those folks from Nashville area. It's been quite the blessing, and I'm humbled by it that I'm able to share my opinions on social media and give those out, and and working towards also building other businesses as well. So I've been able to help I've got my hands dabbled in a bunch of other industries as of right now. I'll be in Vegas.
I hear you're into. Oh yeah, tell us about Vegas.
Oh, I go to Vegas next week for Super Bowl Sunday, which is I'll be with some of the higher ups of Truth Social. I will be with some of them and some other entrepreneurs, some investors, and some marketing people, and some other influencers out there at Trump Tower, and we're having a get together just to kind of network a little bit more. So, and I have some other things in the hopper that I'm working on.
I hear you're into racing. If you could buy a race car, who would you want to drive it and why?
Oh gosh, dogs! I might hurt somebody's feelings here, but listen, I have been. I know a lot of race car drivers. I've sponsored JJ Yaley before. He's a wonderful guy, and so is his family. I've done some smaller team stuff with Mike Harmon Racing back in the day. But Chase Briscoe, him and his team, I've become a big fan. He's easy to talk to. He's a lot like us, and he's a young family man. I mean, he's got 3 kids, 2 twins, and then he had his boy ahead of that. But and his twins are a boy and a girl. Listen, he just switched teams. He went over to Gibbs Racing this year because of the closing of Tony Stewart Haas Racing. But I'm a huge fan of racing in general, even the little cars. I love the Tulsa little cars. I love the dirt track guys.
IndyCar?
I do like IndyCar. There's a guy on social media that he was the rookie of the year, rookie at Indy 500. McGahee, I believe his last name is. His first name's not coming to me, but he's a great customer too. But anyways, he's a big Indy guy. I love Formula One. I love F1 racing. I went to the Vegas race last year. That was quite exciting. So I get into all types of things that are like adrenaline rushes,
Yeah, there you go.
However, I don't like to do them myself. I don't like driving fast.
What's the
And
point of building a fire with caffeine if you're just going to put it out and go to bed, right? So good for you for being a motorhead. All right, I
that's
got
right.
time for one last question if you'll let me have
You
it.
bet.
I think we're in
You bet.
overtime. All right. Do you like the coffee and influencer world better than what you retired from, Shoe Carnival executive?
So before I got into coffee, I actually, or before I really became an entrepreneur, let's just say that I was a smoker. In 2010, I found vaping. So I was one of the first early guys into vaping. So I opened up a couple shops here in Omaha. I sold them in 2015. But before that, I was a car salesman. I was a car salesman for the largest Ford truck dealership in the country. Woodhouse Ford is where I actually worked out of. But we had Woodhouse Ford and Dodge. We were the largest in the world. It was my mentor there, Lance Pidak was his name. He's a wonderful guy. So's his son. His son does a great job. They're super big now, way big. Probably made a bad career choice jumping out and going to be my own entrepreneur and working for myself. Because if I would have stayed there, they've opened up all these dealerships all across town and all across the state, and they've grown so much bigger. But anyways, it was fun working there. We worked out of a very small town in Nebraska called Blair, Nebraska, and Woodhouse became the largest Ford truck dealership in the country. Just out of that little place, we had a hill that was called Truck Mountain. I mean, we had so many trucks, and I tell you what, nobody puckered their butthole more than my old boss when a hailstorm was coming in.
Only,
So,
only a solar panel farm would pucker more.
but I tell you what, that man, he was a great boss and a smart guy, and he taught me everything I know. He taught me everything I know about sales. He made me become even about religion and things like that. He got me more focused and family. So he overall just a great gentleman, and can't say enough good things about how they grew me from a young adult for the most part, along with the Marine Corps. Um, but that transition to go and work for yourself was a lot easier because of him.
You didn't mention Shoe Carnival, so not a good
Shoe
experience there.
Carnival.
Okay. Well, Sean, thank you for your time. We are at the end here. So tell everyone where they can go to find out more about you, your coffee, how to get it at home. Hopefully you all do that for the holidays and your social media.
Yep. I run the page at beard_vet on X, and I run this True Social page of at beardvet. And then other than that, you can go to beardvet.com. So you can find us there.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks again for coming on with us. Hold on, everybody. I'm going to take a short break. I'll be right back. All right. Thanks for coming back. It's that time to remind everyone to please subscribe to heartlandjournal.com. That's how we grow and keep this content for free for you so you can hear from the folks that you may have seen on Twitter or Facebook and not ever know that that was a real person. It's not a bot. It's a real man who served his country and is still serving his country with coffee. Now, the Heartland Journal news. Planned Parenthood is invading school boards. Did you know this? Planned Parenthood failed to pass its abortion agenda. Now the so-called health organization is entering Pennsylvania's school board elections, and their fight has to do with everything besides bettering students' lives. This is written by Stefano Forte. While parents worry about test scores, school safety, quality of life issues, and helping teachers perform their jobs, Planned Parenthood wants to fill students' minds with their radical agenda. Our students may struggle to read, but that is okay with Planned Parenthood so long as their school board candidates push more robust sex ed, gender ideology, and pro-abortion talking points to our vulnerable children, obviously making future customers. I know this fight well, he says. As the executive director of the 1776 Project Pact, I identify high-quality conservative school board candidates. Our opponents attack us as culture warriors, but we are really fighting to ensure every student, no matter where they're born, receives the best education. In just 4 years, we have endorsed over 200 winning candidates. We are winning, so left-wing groups, unions, and now Planned Parenthood are trying to counter us. Bad news for them. Conservatives are used to playing offense and defense, and we have a strategy to keep winning at the ballot box. The 1776 Project PAC understands this better than anyone. Since we launched after COVID-19, we have played offense. Leftists presumed education was their issue, so they failed to see us coming. They underestimated us. After losing so many races, leftists are going on the defense. In 2025 and 26, enter Planned Parenthood. Conservatives have many ways to fight back. For one, we can remind voters who Planned Parenthood endorsed. A Planned Parenthood school board election will be the new Scarlet Letter, a badge that shows parents how radical a candidate is. Next, we must educate voters on Planned Parenthood's goal and the politicians who worked with them on this endeavor. Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania should regret involving himself in these efforts. We can make him regret it, reminding voters of the gender ideology he has endorsed. Finally, we must remind voters of how Planned Parenthood will fail to help our children. They want to build a pipeline to indoctrinate children. It's absolutely disgusting. They've focused on leftist agenda instead of boosting school board candidates interested in test scores, school safety, and transparency. Planned Parenthood will learn what parents want the hard way. Parents care about quality of life kitchen table issues. They don't need more gender ideology in schools. In fact, few voters want this. If you have to start a PAC to get people excited about transgender surgeries, abortion, and hormone blockers, guess what? They were never excited about it in the first place. Planned Parenthood getting involved in school board races is out of their wheelhouse. This will end disastrously for them. And the 1776 Project is going to be there every step of the way to make sure that we get our candidates elected to counter what they are doing. Our children depend on it. Stefano Forte manages campaigns. He joined the 1776 Project PAC as executive director in the winter of 2020. He lives in Queens, New York. The views and opinions expressed are his, not mine. Exclusive. Here are the strangest items Biden's Defense Department blew the rest of its 2024 budget on. The Department of Defense under President Joe Biden spent more in September than in any previous month since 2008, with some funds being used for multi-million-dollar splurges on luxury items, according to Open the Book report published Tuesday. The DoD spent a grand total of $79.1 billion in September 2024. Again, $79.1 billion, with $33 billion of the amount spent within the last 5 working days of the fiscal year, according to the report. What was the hurry, Joe? The sudden increase in spending at the end of the fiscal year in September often serves to keep their funding levels steady, as spending less may lead to congressional budget cuts. Quote, if you think back to the Bush administration, we were in 2 hot wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Christopher Neifus, spokesman for Open the Book, told the Daily Caller News Foundation. Today, under Secretary Lloyd Austin, the Pentagon has managed to exceed that monthly spending figure in real dollars. They are perennially failing audits, but some of what they did itemize is tough to swallow unless you like lobster. The DoD splurged $6 million on lobster tails in September, over $3 million more than it spent the same month in 2023, according to the report. Other luxury food purchases include $16 million on ribeye steak and $6 million on salmon, spending similar amounts on the meat last September. 6.4 million. Actually, that 0.4 matters in this case because that's a lot of salmon. The department also ordered ice cream 79 times for $113,000 and spent $117,000 on fresh donuts, according to the report. How nice. Technology purchased also accounted for a considerable portion of the spending, with $5 million going to Apple products, including 130 iPhones 16 Pro Maxes, which are considered luxury versions of the base iPhone 16 model. According to the report, they also spent a whopping $211 million solely on furniture, $36,000 on which went towards footrests alone. The DoD also managed to spend $1.2 million on musical instruments, according to the report. However, the largest purchases in September went toward expected items, with $3 billion spent on ammunition, well, that's good, and $7.9 billion spent on aircraft, according to the report. The Pentagon also failed its 7 consecutive audits in 2024. With the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2025 requiring the DoD to pass an audit by 2028, according to the report. So 3 more chances to fail. The DoD did not immediately respond to their call for questions. That's it for this episode. Thank you, Sean George, Beard Vet Coffee, for giving the people what they want and putting aside the US versus them BS. This is goodbye for now. I'm your host, Steve Abramowitz, editor-in-chief of HeartlandJournal.com. See ya all tomorrow. Peace in our time, and definitely glory to God.
Working all day, overtime hours for bullshit pay, so I can sit out here and waste my life away. Drag back home and drown my troubles away. It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me. People like you, wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is living in the new world with an whole soul. These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know. But I know that you do, 'cause your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end, 'cause the rich men, know the rich men. I wish politicians would look out for minors, and not just minors on an island somewhere. Lord, we got folks in the street, ain't got nothing to eat, and the obese milking welfare. Well, God, if you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, taxes ought not to pay for your bags of fudge rounds. Young men are putting themselves 6 feet in the ground, 'cause all this damn country does is keep on kicking them down. Lord, it's a damn shame. What the...
Yeah, I've been dreaming of the wild, wild plains, walking where the pine trees dance.
Heartland Journal Podcast is the media property of HeartlandJournal.com, where you can find news stories, commentary, and content serving the heartland of America. Any views or opinions represented on the podcast are personal and belong solely to the creator and do not represent those of the people, institutions, or organizations that the creator may or may not be associated with in professional or personal capacity unless explicitly stated.